Good evening. Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personal matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We are always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We hope our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the municipal clerk, Princeton Packet, and the Trenton Times on January 6, 2023. It was distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 2230, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this in-person meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A 38.8.1. In the event this statute is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Daphne Kendall.
Here.
Betsy Baglio.
Here.
Beth Barron.
Here.
Debbie Bronfeld.
Here.
Jean Durbin.
Present.
Mara Franceschi.
Here.
Susan Cantor.
Here.
Brian McDonald.
Present.
Michelle Tuck Ponder.
Present.
Rob Christopher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Can I please get a motion for item D1, adoption of the minutes for February 21, 2023? Brian, second. Mara?
Daphne Kendall.
Yes.
Betsy Baglio.
Yes.
Beth Barron.
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld.
Yes.
Jean Durbin.
Yes.
Mara Franceschi.
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Brian McDonald.
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder.
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Can I please get a motion for item D2, adoption of the minutes for March 14th, 2023? Rob, second. Jean?
Daphne Kendall.
Yes.
Betsy Baglio.
Yes.
Beth Barron.
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld.
Yes.
Jean Durbin.
Yes.
Mara Franceschi.
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Brian McDonald.
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder.
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. First, we want to begin by expressing our deepest sympathies to the families and community of Nashville who experienced another senseless mass shooting yesterday, in which 3 students and 3 staff members perished. Thank you for joining us tonight. We always like to hear from members of the community. As we did last week, we will have 2 public comment sessions this evening of 1 hour each, allotting 2 minutes per speaker. One will begin right after our student board rep reports, and one will be towards the end of the meeting. We want to hear from as many people as possible, so please keep your comments within the time frame, and please keep them civil and respectful. We are all role models for the students and our children, and they are watching. I hope that if people continue to disagree, we continue to do so in a respectful and thoughtful manner. Bless you. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kelly and the superintendent comments.
Thank you, Board President Kendall. Good evening, everyone. Spring break is next week. We hope that the school district community uses this time for much needed rest to reset for the remainder of the school year. To make that easier, this time will be homework free to give not only our students, but our faculty and staff a breather. Lastly, I want to share my thoughts on these last couple of weeks. A key part of the role of superintendent is making difficult decisions on behalf of a large body of people with different viewpoints and experiences and expectations. I want you to know that those decisions are never personal, but in the best interest of students, staff, and our PPS community. My goal has always been to lead with
Please. Everyone will get their chance to speak. Please allow Dr. Kelly to speak.
My goal has always been to lead with integrity.
Okay. This is the last time. If there's another outburst, we're going to adjourn for 15 minutes. Please give Dr. Kelly the same respect we will give all of you when you want to speak. Thank you.
My goal has always been to lead with integrity, fairness, and hope for better for our children. It's unfortunate that some members of our community don't believe that. However, I respect everyone's right to express themselves, whether it be through protest or public comment, to have their voices heard. What is most disappointing is the way in which some of these concerns have been expressed. Over the past few days, I've received messages and photos to my email that can only be described as personal attacks. That has not been a depiction of what I've known this community to be. I thank this Board of Education. I thank my administrative team with whom this decision was made for their support. I thank our PHS leaders and staff who stepped up in immediately to support our students. While the primary focus is on this sole decision, as impactful as it may be for you and your families, I remind you of all the fantastic work that's happening every day in PPS. For example, the formation of the QUEST program, AKA G&T, to address the needs of our gifted and talented in all domains. The expansion of free public preschool, including the addition of a DLI preschool program with full funding from the state of New Jersey. The restructuring of our intervention program, better known as INRS, to target the needs of our students more systemically and directly. Our Beyond the School Day program at all of our schools that is providing high-intensity tutoring, homework help, and credit recovery. Our partnership with ESS and Princeton Family Institute to address our students' mental health needs at PMS and PHS. And finally, our vast and comprehensive summer programming, providing intervention enrichment through our K-12. Oh, I forgot, there are two more. Our district has been selected as an exemplar district in sustainability through Sustainable Jersey Certification Program, and PPS is now an Orton-Gilliam accredited instructional program, and PPS was selected to move forward in the application process for the New Jersey Tiered System of Support for Early Reading Project. In closing, I will be honest, this has been a difficult time, but one that has been balanced by the positive support from many members of our community and those in my personal circle. And I am encouraged knowing that the work we are doing in Princeton Public Schools is impactful, and our students are the benefactor of time spent by selfless educators. I am hopeful that the remainder of the school year can be spent continuing to build on the best of Princeton. That concludes my report, President Kendall.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly.
I would like to turn the microphone over to our Interim Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Rebecca Gold, who will announce the appointment of our Riverside Principal. Rebecca?
Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have the pleasure of appointing, with the board's approval, a brand-new principal for Riverside Elementary School. Before I go any further, I have to extend all of our thanks to Nancy Whalen, who has been the interim principal for this year and has done an awesome job. Thank you, Nancy. We went through an extensive process to find a principal, and I just wanted to briefly give you an overview. We post the job, we paper screen for certifications. We basically went through virtual interviews, 45 people applied. We went through virtual interviews of a group of 8, and there were 5 internal candidates. They went right up past that. The virtual interviews were done with 8. At the end, we pushed through 9 candidates, 4 external, 5 internal, to go forward to the large committee interview. The interview committee included gen ed teachers, special ed teachers, child study team members, guidance counselors, secretary, aide, 3 PTO representatives, assistant sup of C&I, an elementary principal, the director of student services, the elementary special ed supervisors, and Nancy, the interim Riverside. The people that I mentioned, the gen ed teachers, special ed, all came from Riverside. So there was a committee of the building. 3 candidates went forward from that process, and they did what we call a learning walk protocol that Dr. Kelly had given to us. That protocol included those candidates visiting Riverside and gave us a chance to see how they evaluate teachers, their candidate leaderships, their leadership skills, point of view, and how they worked in a school environment. 2 candidates went to the superintendent for recommendation, and the chosen finalists met with the personnel committee of the board. And tonight, I am proud to present to you Mr. Max Octow. Mr. Max Octow has 9 years' experience as a school administrator, 23 years in education. He received his BS in environmental science from Rutgers. He received his MA in teaching from Tufts University and his postmaster's certificate in educational leadership from TCNJ. From 2018 to now, he has been a principal in Mercer County, and his previous experience was a German, Spanish, science, reading, and ESL teacher. I'd like to call him up now, have you all meet him, and have him say a couple of words. Max?
Thank you very much, Ms. Gould. This is on. You can hear me. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I'm honored and extremely grateful to have been selected as Riverside's principal, and would like to thank the interviewing committee and the Board of Education for their support and confidence. To Riverside families and staff, I look forward to meeting many of you this summer, and I'm very excited to be part of the team. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, can I please get a motion for the appointment of Mr. Octow? Is that right?
Octow.
Octow?
Yes.
Octow, apologies. Mara, second, Beth.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Jean Durbin,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder,
Yes.
Rob Christopher. That's
I'm
an
an
abstention
abstention.
by statute. Apologies. Unanimous vote.
Okay. Welcome to the district, Mr. Octow. I'm sorry. And I actually have German ancestry. Welcome to the district. We're so grateful that you just joined us tonight. All of our meetings are like this, so thank you. Take care. All right, moving on now to item G1, our student board members report with Andre Penn and Rohan Chevet. Gentlemen.
Looking very handsome tonight. You know what?
We hope everyone is having a great evening, and we thank you to the board and to the public for convening here this evening to work towards the betterment of our district.
We have a few updates for you on our continued efforts towards helping the mental health of our high school students. We have a few updates for you on our continued efforts towards helping with mental health of our high school students. We had previously created this infographic and have worked closely with Ms. Foreman, Ms. Karras, and Ms. Lagas to get these posters effectively distributed to the student body. We were able to get funds to print these posters and have begun to hang them up around the school. We believe that these will be a welcome addition to the high school and will look to continue focusing on ways to improve the mental health of the PHS student body.
Now, we want to remind everybody who's planning to speak tonight's meeting to remain respectful in their comments. We have all met here to help our community to get to a better place and help make our schools the best they can be. Each person sitting in this room has their own opinion on what steps our district ought to take next, but only through civil discourse free from personal attacks and disrespect can our goals be met.
Our words are a reflection of our character and demonstrate who we are. We both hope that as a community, Princeton can come together and respectfully disagree with each other in a civil manner.
Thank you so much all for listening, and we anticipate a meeting in which we will all listen to each other's views and concerns and work towards effective solutions.
So Andre and Rohan, first of all, thank you for your efforts to help with mental health awareness and seeing it through with funds and everything. If you don't mind passing that around so we could all see it. And then second, I didn't have a chance to reach out to you, but I just wanted to thank you for your leadership at last week's meeting, and you set a tone of civility and respect. So thank you very much for that. Moving on now, we are going to move on to our first public forum. It is 7:56. We will go to 8:56. We're going to allow 2 minutes per speaker. Mr. Scarillo is going to time it, and we just please ask that you respect the time limit so we can hear from as many people as possible. I have the list here. We're going to start with students and staff, and then we will continue on. We have about 38 people who have signed up to speak, so hopefully we'll be able to fit, we should be able to fit everyone in. And so with that, we're going to start with Karina Key. When you come up, please state just your street address and the town, your name, your street address, and the town you live in. Thank you.
My name is Karina Key, and I am a freshman at Princeton High School. This school year's theme that we're supposedly operating under, according to the district, is Helping, Healing, Hope. The official message that goes along with this theme says to promote collaboration and leaning on each other after an unprecedented 3 years. But how can we continue to promote collaboration when the board isn't even collaborating with the very people its decisions affect? And how can we lean on each other when the students that the board serves have no say as to who is leading our schools? Transparency is intrinsic to actually achieving any of this. Mr. Schmiel has been not only an effective principal, but a well-loved and supported one. Over 2,900 people have signed on to the petition demanding transparency. Countless messages and letters of support for Mr. Schmiel have been spread all over social media. The board has so proudly launched a strategic 5-year plan called Forward Focus 2028 just last month. But what use is looking into that when the status quo does not serve the benefit of students? This Focus Forward 2028 plan discusses how a strong ecosystem is key to creating prepared students as collaborative communicators. The word collaborative is brought up yet again when the board itself has not been collaborative with us as students. Insofar as a strong ecosystem is trying to be achieved, the reality is that students and parents are unhappy with board decisions and have relentlessly been expressing their concerns while the board has continued to ignore this. What use are all of these ambitious plans for the future when the current state of things is all over the place? Transparency is of utmost importance, and those serving this generation of future leaders have yet to show this. Without transparency, the brunt of things will only worsen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next up is Matthias Blacks.
My name is Matthias Blacks, and this is my first year at PHS. Although I haven't been at PHS very long, I've been here long enough to know that Mr. Schmiel was a real asset to the PHS community. After Mr. Schmiel's abrupt departure, announced in a curt message on Friday afternoon, in which his name wasn't even used, we students are now spending our time and energy worrying and fighting against the sudden removal of our principal, instead of focusing on our classes, sports, and clubs. The way Mr. Schmiel was dismissed was not only an insult to him, but an insult to the PHS community and students who care deeply about our school's leadership. If the Board of Education truly cares about students and our well-being, then maybe they should think twice before making sudden changes in leadership in the middle of the second semester with only a few months left in the school year. As you already know and have been reminded by countless students, constant administrative turnover is detrimental to student learning and mental health, something that the board claims to care about. We students haven't seen or heard anything about Mr. Schmiel's administrative failures, but what we did see was his unique ability to connect with students. Even through his daily emails updating students on school as such everyday things like schedules and reminders, his ability to bring the school together was apparent. In fact, maybe the ability to bring the school community together is one of the most important characteristics that we need in a principal after recently coming out of a pandemic and being isolated for so long. Finally, Mr. Schmiel treated students with respect and listened to everyone's ideas. I'm asking the board to do the same. I urge you to respect us and listen to the more than 2,000 community members that have voiced concern to your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ashley Chen. Ashley Chen.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Chen. I'm a senior at PHS and student body president. I started a petition that now has over 3,000 signatures, a petition that demands transparency and accountability from the Board of Education in regards to Principal Schmiel's termination. As StuCo president, I represent the students of PHS, especially when I previously spoke at the last board meeting, and a meeting that had hundreds of students and community members gathered on Zoom and sharing their disappointment and frustrations on this termination. Unfortunately, I don't feel that those remarks that were shared at the Zoom have been responded to. With so many members of the community who have been actively advocating their distress, it's disappointing to see that no action has been taken. As a senior, this is actually the second time that I've been at a board meeting to demand transparency and accurate representation of student bodies' voices. The fact that hundreds attending a board meeting is natural to me seems to already indicate that the school community is not being accurately represented. I trust that you've already heard how great of an impact Principal Schmiel has made on the students at PHS, and I know that only more of those positive experiences will be shared. I personally can attest to the positive impact of Principal Schmiel, and I only hope that the students in the grade below me can share that same experience. It's frustrating as student body president to have countless students reach out to me with questions and frustrations that I can't answer to, because especially when no communication has been made to any of the students. I only ask for the board to only listen to its students and please to accurately represent them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Melissa Marshner. Melissa Marshner.
Daphne, can you announce the person on deck so we don't lose a minute between speakers?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Melissa Marshner, and then next up is Sanjay Chaswal.
If there are
any more students left, I'm happy to wait for students.
Are you a student?
No, clearly not.
Oh,
If there's more students,
yes, there are more students. Thank you. You do look like a student, so. Okay, next up is Sanjay Chaswal.
I think he said also not a student.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, there was a circle, yes or no. Okay, next. Oh, no, sorry. Next up is Ida Sadiq. And then after Ida is, I don't know, is Yeon Suk Cho a student? No. So then next up is Dr. Joy Barnes-Johnson.
Hi, I hope you guys can hear me well. So my name is Ida Siddiq. I don't know if you guys can't tell, but evidently I'm a Black student at PHS, and I see a bunch of people like me in the audience. It has been brought to my attention that those that support Mr. Schmiel are being labeled as racist towards the superintendent, which I feel is not the case. We are here. We are here to support the unfair treatment that our principal, Mr. Schmiel, has endured during his time here by this Board of Education. But I think you guys know the saying, practice what you preach. So I ask you, what is it to remove a principal that has established for your claim of providing equity in our school district, in our community? Like I previously stated over the last Zoom meeting, Mr. Schmiel made sure to include a diverse group of students, Black, Asian, to LGBTQ, and students with learning disabilities, to voice their opinion on how we can improve our school was one of the many accomplishments of his very short-lived term as principal of PHS. As superintendent, I see that part of your goal is for equitable change, and by definition, I believe Mr. Schmiel has done exactly that. I come here with full honesty and bluntness, and however you decide to interpret it is upon you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Next up is Adrian Sarasol. I'm sorry, I missed you and the students, but Dr. Barnes-Johnson. Oh, Doc, if you want to yield.
I'll yield to the student.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barnes-Johnson. And after Dr. Barnes-Johnson is Cecilia Burge.
Thank you. Friends, parents, Princetonians, I come to honor Principal Schmiel, not to denounce this administration. I simply come to speak what I do know. In my experience with the real deal that is Principal Schmiel, he has shown himself to be nothing but an outspoken advocate for his students, for his community, and he has personally shepherded multiple student-led projects, providing much-needed advice, encouragement, and support to them. While I do not know the full story of what has transpired, I know that Princeton High School has been made a shining example of what Princeton can be by Mr. Schmiel. He has done more to pursue a key goal of this board, encouraging student voice more than anyone else I know. For he knows not just the voice and the will of his students, but their names as well. I ask you all to support the man who has done nothing but support you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to you who are my colleagues and those who support this community. I want to say thank you to the previous speaker for acknowledging that you can support someone without denouncing others. So I appreciate that comment. Thank you. I come before you as a teacher, feeling like Esther standing before her judge and in protest. As an educator and colleague of people who are being demonized for promoting change, this school year feels like I have suffered a personal assault. I apologize to all leaders who serve this community and feel like you are under attack. Change makers have the awesomely terrible task of thinking differently. A five-year ad campaign for Apple challenged us in the 90s to see diversity as our strength, even as it corralled us into accepting a new definition and standard of meritocracy. On the surface, it convinced us of individual genius, but deeply embedded in the shallow message of anti-social distance created by an MP3 player and headsets was a unique thread of interdependence and community. Whether we elicit the school histories of Mamie Tape in 1885, Sylvia Mendez in 1946, or the immigrant Black and brown children of Witherspoon Jackson in 1947, we are all made better when we grow to value difference. Every person and group of people who comes into this community bears witness to greatness, making profound sacrifices to be a part of it in wildly hostile environments and in pursuit of equality, excellence, and equity. These early battles for civil rights have now devolved into simply being civil, to see each other's humanity and consider that beneath the tip of every iceberg is a mountain and maybe a volcano that tells stories that we will never know. Please understand that we have a responsibility to speak civilly to each other. In the racial literacy class, we
Dr.
take
Barnes-Johnson, please wrap it up.
All right.
Thank
We
you.
take two approaches to teaching children to see the world, to understand yourself and your identity, and to recognize fallacy, ahistoric, legalistic, individualistic, and others. How do we heal from this harm? We listen to each other. The canopy that's created by our streets is important. You are not being civil. And I'm going
Dr.
to ask you to
Barnes-Johnson.
pay attention to what you do. Your children are watching.
Okay, next up is going to be Kip Berman, after Cecilia.
Thank you. I usually do a better job at not following immediately.
And just for everyone, could you please state, what
sorry.
your position, where you live?
Sure. I'm Cecilia Burge, Assistant Principal at PHS. I wear many hats in this district. Most often, I'm known as Tommy's mom. So, however, I would like to emphasize that I'm speaking strictly in my role as Assistant Principal. Last week, as you know, some of our kids, some of our students were frustrated, and we worked very hard to engage them. Use this as a valuable learning opportunity. Our students are intelligent. They are resilient. I have no doubt that they will emerge from this conflict stronger than ever before. I also have no doubt they will have much to reflect upon this experience. I also want to take this moment to say a word of thank you to our teachers and staff who is always there for our kids, supporting them. Thank you. Perhaps more importantly, they're always there, role modeling for our students to how to engage with our democratic process in a respectful manner. Ultimately, this is about our children and their learning. We cannot lose sight on that. The best learning happens in the classrooms with the teachers being present, at dinner tables with engaged adults, listening and sharing. And yes, at events such as tonight, where we can exercise our democratic rights with respect for each other. So I want to thank the board for holding this particularly in person, and for offering this extended opportunity for public comment. I also want to express my support for the approval of Dr. Kathy Foster tonight. She is no stranger to PPS. With graduation, CUSAC visits, state testing, prom, teacher observations, and all other year-end tasks on the horizon. Her presence will bring much calmness to our building, so our teachers can focus on teaching and our students can focus on learning.
I'm sorry, Ms. Burge, I didn't hear what you said. Could you repeat that? And please respect everyone who's speaking and let them speak.
I was just saying that I want to express my support for the approval for tonight's hiring of Dr. Foster. She was here before in Dr. Kim's role. I do want to say it's probably selfish, but for very practical reasons.
Please finish up, Ms. Burge.
With graduation CUSACs, state testing, prom planning, year-end observations, and a slew other kinds of celebrations for our seniors, her presence will bring much needed calmness to our buildings so our teachers can focus on teaching and our students can focus on learning. And that is what we do best. As we all know, at the end of the day, if our children do well, we will do well. I want to repeat again, if our children do well, we will all do well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was just advised that the bell, it's a 2-minute timer, but there's a 20-second warning, and then a 10-second warning, and then a final warning. And again, please do not cheer or boo over anyone. We want to hear what everyone has to say. But if you're interrupting someone's speech, why should they lose their time? Because you don't like what they're saying.
You know what? You're out of order.
Okay.
Yes.
Next up is Chris Santarpio. Wait, no, you're up. Remember, I was asked to have someone on deck. Sorry.
Hey, my name's Kip Berman. I live at 73 Birch. I'm sorry to change the subject for one second on
sure.
y'all. I wanted to extend my family's gratitude to the board for acknowledging parents' concerns about the future of the DLI Spanish program, which I strongly support at Community Park. We love Princeton Public Schools and are grateful for your service on their behalf. However, at last week's meeting, the idea of sister schools was broached, and I'd like to speak clearly about my opposition to any plan that would remove students from their neighborhood schools in 4th grade. I currently have a very happy first grader at Community Park and a younger child who will be a kindergartner there in 2024. We live on John Street and walk to and from school. We found our house primarily due to its proximity to Community Park Elementary as we planned for both our children to attend through 5th grade and overlap there for 3 meaningful years. We wanted to be in a place that recognized the need for bilingual education as a norm and the importance of Spanish in particular. But hearing of plans to have students change elementary schools for 4th and 5th grade makes very little sense insofar as it's disruptive and requires yet another acclimation to a new school. Kindergarten, 4th grade, 6th grade, 9th grade. Not to mention, it displaces children from walkable schools, lengthens commutes, reduces children's sleep, separates siblings, and needlessly buses kids who currently walk. My daughter plays for hours on the school playground before walking home. That vital outside time gives her incredible self-esteem, joy, and strength. And I want her little brother to share a sense of community with her as long as possible, as I daily see the confidence, bonding, and other benefits the siblings at her school enjoy. So I urge the board to scrap this sister school idea now and assure families that their kids will be able to enjoy the continuity of attending their local neighborhood school from kindergarten through 5th grade. These aren't just numbers or ratios. These are children, sisters, brothers, and hardworking families like mine who have prioritized walkable neighborhood public schools in Princeton. How much more disruption after an interminable pandemic can we ask children and families to bear? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next up is Laura Coley.
Good evening. Chris Santarpio, 294 Nassau Street. My thoughts are a little bit different after the announcement today by Dr. Kelly. In the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of parents activated within our elementary schools regarding the recommendation short-term approach. However, with today's message, we are eager to see the administration engage with the parents all across the elementary schools. This is true leadership to engage in these town halls of sorts, to seek an understanding and to listen to all elementary schools. I believe each one of our elementary schools has its own unique culture. I look at the entire PPS as a quilt but each school bringing different qualities to the table. Buildings do not make up schools. It's the people, our communities within the schools that came before us and that are there today and that will make the school of what it is and to become and what students cherish. My son doesn't run into CP because of what the classroom looks like. He runs in there with the excitement each day because of his friends, the teachers, the administration, and the cultural experiences that the DLI brings at Community Park. I do think from having these conversations in town halls with the parents, the decisions will be informed decisions. Some of us are new here as we moved here. I do think once we have these, there'll be more collaboration and engagement, and we'll understand what has made the Princeton School District the special place it has been and will continue to be. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Assistant Superintendent Dr. Tu for fielding all those emails. She's a true leader, engaging, and also for Dr. Kelly for her message today. In closing, I thank you for hitting the pause button and engaging in these. By taking our foot off the gas pedal and enlisting a comprehensive collaborative approach, we will all benefit from this engagement. We're looking forward to working with the administration in bolstering the DLI program. What it has been and what it continue to be for all of our elementary schools that can enter the program. We've rolled up our sleeves and looking forward to working with all of you on the DLI program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Peter Myers.
Hello, my name is Laura Coley. I live on Hickory Court. I'm the parent of a kindergartner at Community Park who's also in the dual language immersion program. I'd like to first start by thanking the administration for listening to us and taking a pause to engage with parents about long-term plans for the elementary school. In particular, I also want to give credit to Dr. Tu, who has been taking the time to respond to many lengthy questions and then responses about the plan that was recently proposed and now is paused. It wasn't clear from today's announcement if an English track will still be added to CP as soon as this fall. And I'd like to advocate for keeping Community Park as a dual language immersion only school. I'd like to see the district pursue other options to increase enrollment within the DLI program, such as adding another pre-K class to serve as a feeder to the program, allowing children to enter the program past first grade, and expanding the zone that feeds into Community Park. Demand for the DLI program is growing. We have more children registered for the DLI program at CP this fall than for kindergarten at any other elementary school. Adding an English-only track to CP will effectively cap the program at a time when demand is growing. It could also lead to oversized class sizes within the DLI program, effectively shifting the problem from one location to another. For instance, the rising second graders this fall will have 54 children in their class, and we assume that a class this size will be split into two groups of 27 if an English track is also added. A group of 27 children seems especially challenging for their teachers, who because of the paired English-Spanish model will each have 54 children to teach. Those of us with kids at CP know what an amazing opportunity our dual language immersion program here in Princeton is. We're encouraged by the growth that we're seeing. We believe that the program can continue to grow and thrive. We urge the Board of Education to continue to promote the dual language immersion program and to include it as a staple in the long-term plan. We have a large group of parents who are ready to partner and provide information to prospective families. Interested families can reach us at cpdliamigos@gmail.com if they want to be paired up with a current family. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jane Manners. No, Peter, but and then right, I was asked to have an.
I have the same problem.
Yes, I'm just trying to follow directions.
Perfect, thank you.
Apologies. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So-
Jane Manners is on deck. Mr. Myers, you're up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to say from the Zoom meeting the other night and this meeting, I am extremely proud to live in a community where there are so many eloquent people who have important contributions to make, a lot of them very different. And I'm in awe of all of these people, but especially in a certain sense, I'm in awe of the members of the board, because if ever there was a thankless task, you guys have got it. So I appreciate your service. And it's important that somebody's doing the job that you're doing. I'm on the side that says that it's my opinion that the termination of Mr. Schmiel and the hiring of Ms. Foster or just Dr. Foster is a pretty significant mistake. But that's a difference of opinion. I'm more concerned about differences about process and the way in which these decisions were made and the way in which they're being carried out and carried forward, especially in the context of a very significant and heated discussion. I have to say, though, I recognize our superintendent's strong leadership. Her view is what it is, and she's putting it forward the way she feels the need to put it forward. It's clearly setting the agenda for this discussion. I think that's actually quite important. I disagree profoundly with you about the process and about that, but I have to say that's an important element of what's happening here. On the question of equity, I'm sorry, I just want to, so with Dr. Barnes-Johnson, I also agree that whatever is going on here is not only about Mr. Schmiel. It is about the continuation of a struggle over equity in the United States. And it is extremely important to continue that struggle, but it is absolutely clear to me that we don't have it yet. And that to not have a more open discussion about that and how to conduct that and how to move that forward. So with Dr. Barnes-Johnson, I think we would disagree on what to me seemed like a fairly narrow view of what the right path is. But clearly something is wrong. And the way in which this is being carried forward, there's a big problem. It needs to be opened up. The discussion needs to be much broader. And it can't be under these conditions of crisis. So I'm sorry for taking over my time. There's a lot more to say, and I look forward to further discussion with the members of the board, and especially with you, Dr. Kelly. I hope we have a chance to talk.
Thank you. Next up on deck is Olivia Burnett Salinas.
So I want to actually start by thanking Peter, because I thought Peter did a great job of kind of modeling the sort of discussion that we should be having. Like, he disagrees, but he's respectful. He appreciates what the board and what the superintendent are doing and how hard they're working. And I think that's like exactly what we should be doing. So I came up here today not to comment specifically on the Principal Schmiel situation. I like Principal Schmiel. I like to Schmiel spiels. My son, who's a sophomore, like Principal Schmiel. But I also know I don't know all the facts. But the people who do know all the facts are unpaid volunteer board members made a different decision. So I have to kind of reserve my judgment in respect for their kind of much more informed decision. But the point I really wanted to make is that there's a lot of strong emotions. And that is actually a good thing, right? Because the reason we all feel really strongly is that at root, we all really care about public education in this town. And my concern is that with the vitriol and the kind of characterization of the disagreement as a kind of wokeness versus racist caricature, that's going to hurt public education in this town, right? We see these sorts of battles over boards of education all over the country, and we know that there is one common loser, and that's the public education system. So I want to urge everybody to speak your mind, have strong emotions, have strong feelings, make your voice heard, but do it in a respectful way that doesn't villainize the other side. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm Jane Manners, 61 Weechee Lane. Sorry.
Princeton? Thank you. So next up is on deck is Lars Medin. But again, if you could just please say, I don't need the street number. I don't want anyone going to your house, but just the street and the town. Thank you.
Got it. Perfect. Alexia Burnett Salinas. I am on Lawrenceville Road and a JP parent. I had the opportunity to meet a few of you actually at the State of the District and also participated and heard your proposal in regards to the overcrowding. I actually was really impressed with the options and the consideration that were put forth. And I left that meeting saying, wow, my board, my superintendent really looked at facts. They had a very good analysis and a plan. I was extremely disappointed today, though, that there was going to be no action this calendar year. There was a good plan in place, and I understand the pause and the desire to get more input and feedback from parents. But to delay any action until basically 2024, I think really is not acceptable, at least at this point. Decisions are not easy. I think we're living through that right now. You're never going to please everybody. But I think inactivity is complacency. We have kids in crisis at JP. We have an overpopulation of kids. We're putting undue stress on our principal and our teachers. I fear that, they may opt to retire. And so I think, at this point, I would say we have 3 months left in our school year. I do believe that is enough time to solicit feedback from all the parents in all of the elementary schools and come together and make a joint and informed decision. Letting this slip until next year and making changes, because there will need to be some change. We have to accept there has to be some changes. This is not a sustainable solution. That's going to be disruptive to our youngest students who actually were probably the most impacted by COVID. So I would ask you guys just to hold yourself accountable, engage with us, but do it in a shorter timeline so that we have an action plan for next year. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. On deck is Jose Aviles.
Hello, I'm Lars Medin. I live on 26 Linden Lane.
It moves.
Yeah. And I'd like to start by thanking the board, thanking the students, and thanking Dr. Kelly for listening to us today. This is a really bad situation. You know it. It's a really bad situation. And I'm going to speak to the board and Dr. Kelly and the students. I'm going to ask you, this is a moment for leadership. And there's a dichotomy here. You can continue in a really, this has been a very bad path. And I'm happy to talk to anyone about the process. It has to do with process. I think we were told that here. But this is your chance, I think, to do it right. And we have to listen, but you also have to listen and open your heart. And I'm going to ask you to do that. I think you can set the conditions for rebuilding trust and good faith. And that's what and bringing the community together. We need to get together here, folks. This is not the way to do it. So I have 3. I'm probably going to run out of time, but I will try to be quick here. I have 3 things, suggestions. This come from me. I'm not telling you that you have to do it. I'm asking you to consider it. Okay, each of the suggestions here. Consider this. First, do no harm moving forward. Do no more harm. Please. Please think about this and realize there is harm being done. And I would say, this is my opinion, I don't know all the details, but, that's bad. But why hire a new temporary principal that has been involved in unclarities when it comes to detracking and where there was not real transparency? That to me, the signal you're sending me as a parent is, that's just not the right way to do it. That's not building trust. Number 2, I will say the most important thing, in my opinion, you can do, no matter what your opinion is to rehire Mr. Schmiel. That would send, no matter which side you are on, that will send a message to the community. Let's get together. Let's come together. And let's move forward from there. I don't think there's an issue here that the principals that there are principals. I don't think the issue is with the principal. The issue is with that Dr. Schmiel had somebody knock on his door.
Please wind down your thoughts, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Knock on his door, a lawyer, and give him a message. If he did something criminal, I'm in favor of that. But why use that process if he didn't? And I will end with the last, if I can, and my last comment is, consider this could be a false dichotomy. it may not be just one way or the other way. You have a community that wants to work with you here. And instead of having some kind of authoritarian way of coming down on us, that's what we feel from Berkeley or from, work with us. The community wants to come together. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I was advised that Mr. Aviles is on his way. I don't know how he signed the sign-in sheet, but next up is Olga Barbanel, and then on deck is Gwen Parker. Before we continue, the board's lawyer, Mr. Lapira, is here tonight. And just for those of you that might have missed the last meeting and the reason why you believe our actions are authoritarian, I'd like Mr. Lapira to explain.
So,
Madam Chair, you said earlier that if there was an additional disruption,
yes,
we would take a 15-minute
Okay.
break. I move that we take a 15-minute break.
All right, I really want to continue this meeting, and I really want to hear from everyone, but I'm running this meeting, and I think, hearing from the district lawyer right after we're called authoritarian, sorry. Yeah, we're stopping the time.
Your meeting, you
Okay.
run it.
I will adjourn the meeting if you don't allow Mr. Lapira to speak, and he'll just speak when we get back. Please go ahead.
okay, so let me just make sure the question is specifically.
Oh, the question is, it seems very one-sided and information is not being shared, and I
Sure.
just wanted you to explain why that is.
Right. Okay. So what I explained at the last meeting was that sometimes when there's personnel actions, there are a number of comments or questions or concerns that members of the public have. Those are not things that we can necessarily respond to. Every staff member here, doesn't matter who the staff member is, has privacy rights that are protected, that they have, that are guaranteed to them. And we can't violate those privacy rights by expressing anything about that would be in their personnel records. There's limited exceptions, things like salary and things of that nature. But generally speaking, nothing that is otherwise confidential, nothing about performance reviews or anything like that. None of that is accessible. We can't talk about it. There's no question that members of the public sometimes feel, and this is not unique to Princeton, this happens everywhere, that they don't know all the facts, or they hear the facts from certain people and make certain assumptions. But the reality is that we can't disclose that information. There are scenarios where we are going to discuss an employee in executive session. That happens. Whenever we do that, we give the employee notice of that. The employee has the right to waive that privacy interest and have those discussions in public instead of in private. But until that happens, the board can't respond to those things in public. So I understand it's frustrating. Again, it's not unique to Princeton. This is something that happens in numerous school districts. It's a frustrating scenario. It's frustrating for the board members and everybody involved because it is, to some degree, I don't want to say that's necessarily one-sided, but there are issues that come up, there are questions that come up, and that the board really can't respond to for confidentiality reasons. So we respect the confidentiality of the employees, regardless of their status, doesn't matter. We respect that confidentiality, and we can't get into the details about that. So I know it's frustrating, but that's what the law is.
Just so everyone's clear, what has to happen in order for us to discuss an employee's employment in public?
Sure. So very limited scenarios. I mean, number one is if the board has given notice that there's going to be a private discussion about that employee's terms and conditions of employment, and that discussion otherwise, which would take place in private, the employee requests that discussion take place in public, then that happens, right? Last time we discussed, there are various processes and procedures that have to do, for example, like with non-renewals, right? And if there's a non-renewal, an employee is entitled to a statement of reasons. After the employee receives a statement of reasons, he or she can request what is known as, it's an informal appearance. They call it a Donaldson hearing. It's not a hearing. It's not adversarial. It's an informal appearance where the employee has the opportunity to explain to the board why he or she should be rehired. That could be in public or not. It depends upon, once again, whether or not the employee exercises his or her privacy or exercises his or her right to waive his or her privacy rights. So those are the scenarios in which it can be discussed in public. But otherwise, we've got to keep that confidential because the employee has the right to have that confidential. So.
Okay, I'm sorry, Olga, for keeping you waiting. And on deck is Gwen Parker. Thank you, Mr. LaPura. Yeah, and of course, I will subtract Mr. LaPura's time for the public comment.
3 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Hello. So thank you very much for getting together today. And as we were present, over 1,000 people on that Zoom for your first meeting, 4,000 people signed the petition to reinstate Dr. Schmiel, and about 2,000 people signed the petition to asking to Dr. Kelly to step down. And this is commonly known in Princeton public school community today. So, and I would like to bring up your attention that in response to numerous inquiries over the last several days as to whether the Board of Education can choose to renew Frank Schmiel as principal of Princeton High School, the answer is yes. The Board of Education can choose to renew him as principal over any opposition by the superintendent of Princeton Public Schools. However, there are certain procedural requirements to do so. And in case any parents are not aware of it, as a general rule, the Board of Education can only hire or renew someone upon recommendation of the superintendent. Upon recommendation, the board can override that recommendation after what is known as a Donaldson hearing for the employee, in this case, Schmiel. So I understand the next step. We anticipate the statement should be released by the Board of Education. I'm just a parent and a human, and it's unspeakable what we're going through as parents, and we certainly do not appreciate seeing Dr. Kelly or any board members smiling at us when we are in such a distress and we have our parents and our children in distress. And so I appreciate the opportunity of speaking today, and I hope that Dr. Kelly specifically will make the right decision and will be remembered by students and parents of this community as a great superintendent.
Thank you. And then next on deck is Andrew Ski. But first was Gwen Parker. Okay, thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you all for your service to our public schools.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And just a reminder, please state your name, your street
Yes.
address, and the town you live in.
Yes, my name is Gwen Parker. I live on Old Trenton Road in Cranberry. I'll leave off the number because I don't really want any company. So thank you all for your service. I know your positions are not easy to occupy, and I know that you're dealing with some very difficult issues right now. I have a very simple ask, and that is that the board please postpone any decision on approving Dr. Kathy Foster as an interim principal for Princeton High School. And there are two reasons why I'm making this request. The first one is that there's obviously been a loss of trust in this community. And specifically, I think there have been a lot of questions raised given the abrupt nature of Mr. Schmiel's being placed on administrative leave. There are a lot of questions about what kind of supervisory powers was the board exercising during that process. The announcement of his departure was very abrupt and really didn't comport with any kind of deliberative or thoughtful process I've ever been part of. So that is one of the things that needs to be addressed. Postponing the decision on Dr. Foster's appointment would allow time. I understand things are going to be vetted more publicly. What a great opportunity for transparency and for everyone to understand what you've been considering. The second reason why I'm asking for you to postpone that decision is that Dr. Foster's imminent arrival has already been announced to the Princeton High School community as a done deal. This undermines our trust in our basic right to open public meetings, and it raises questions about whether it is a done deal. So that is a very simple request that I ask. Thank you again for your service and for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
On deck is Melissa Marshner.
My name is Andrew Ski. I live on Lee Avenue in Princeton. I'll be really brief. I'm just speaking to the part of the enrollment issues, which includes taking 57 students out of Johnson Park because they were admitted into the community, many of them years ago, have become a part of the community, but suddenly because they're not, they're zoned for community park, there's discussion of that's being rescinded. It feels, I mean, frankly, morally questionable. I went to Littlebrook as a kid. They closed the school because it was a drop in population, but the entire school was divided up and went to other Princeton regional schools. This is a very different thing. This is taking a very small subset of a community and telling them, everyone else can stay here. You guys are going somewhere else. It feels like it would be tumultuous in a child's life. It feels like at this point, somewhat arbitrary distinction since they've been a member of this community for so long. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Melissa Marshner, Lidkey Drive, Cranberry. Thank you for your service and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I strongly urge the board to not approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Kathleen Foster as the acting principal of PHS for the remainder of the school year. This appointment would not be in the best interest of PHS students, but rather is an unnecessary change that would create even more instability for and be disruptive and detrimental to the students, especially with only 2.5 months until the end of the school year. The appointment would be a waste of taxpayer money since we have very capable vice principals who know our students, our school, and our community already doing the job. This appointment would not be in the best interest of PHS students, parents, and Princeton constituents because it appears Dr. Kathleen Foster was handpicked by the superintendent almost immediately after Mr. Schmiel's dismissal, seemingly without any meaningful time for the board to fully vet her and determine whether she is right for our school. I strongly urge the board to provide the information requested by Mr. Schmiel and his attorneys to them as soon as possible in order to move forward with the Donaldson hearing and reinstate Mr. Schmiel as soon as possible. Finally, I strongly urge the board to listen to the voices of your students and your constituents. I am shocked and appalled at the fact that someone apparently gave Vice Principals Johnson and Burge the impression that it was a foregone conclusion that Kathleen Foster would be appointed as PHS interim principal. As I'm sure you know, their email on Sunday to families and students stated in part, quote, "As soon as Dr. Kathy Foster comes on board, we will collaborate and begin to work on it. But that decision is supposed to be made tonight. By a vote of the board after a full meeting, including public comment." So that begs the question, will you truly consider public comment tonight, or have you already made your decision? You were elected to represent the voices of your constituents, not impose your own opinions on them. Your community is speaking loud and clear. We do not want Kathleen Foster appointed as interim principal for PHS. We have no confidence in the policies and decisions of the superintendent, and we want Mr. Schmiel back at PHS as principal.
And on deck is David Mardkoff. David Mordkoff, and then on deck is Felix Bird.
Good evening, David Mordkoff. I live on Jefferson Road here in Princeton, and thank you to the members of the board for letting us speak tonight. I'm a parent of an elementary school student at Community Park in the DLI program. It's one of the reasons my family and I moved to Princeton this past August. We came from Brooklyn, where we attended a school where there was both DLI and English only programs. And it was not an ideal experience because you really had two completely separate schools, but we happened to share the same building. And there was not really a great sense of community or interaction between the separate schools. So I thank the board for putting on pause the plan to relocate some students into CP. And I hope that you'll continue to work with the parents going forward to figure out ways to keep Community Park as a DLI only school and to bolster the enrollment therein. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then on deck is Jason Rogart.
Good evening. My name's Felix Bird. I live at 5 Harriet Drive, and I'd like to echo what my friend Lars just pointed out this evening. The most frustrating part of this whole episode has been the silence from the board on this issue. And I realize that you can't give details for legal reasons, but for the board to say nothing about this has been the most frustrating thing. And the fact that there's been no attempt at an explanation is been what's so difficult for us. So I'm asking here tonight to take a pause on the hiring of the interim principal, because like Lars said, there needs to be a discussion, and I feel that the town deserves to know the agenda. They need to know what is going on. I realize you can't give the details, but we need to know exactly what is going on and what is the plan moving forward. I mean, what more of a showing of support do you need for Mr. Schmiel tonight? Because for us as parents, we have a wonderful high school principal, and now you wish to remove him? How is it acceptable that we get no explanation at all? Last summer, we had a vote on roofing and an HVAC system, and it was in an election. And I don't need to point out to you how much more important the retaining Mr. Schmiel is. Relying on legalese and technicalities is a losing strategy that you will never win back the hearts and minds of this community with that approach. I urge you to reconsider retaining Mr. Schmiel. Thank you.
Thank you. And on deck is, are you Robert Karp?
No, Jason Rogart.
Oh, Jason Rogart. Robert Karp is on deck, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, and thank you to the board for allowing all of us to speak tonight. We really do appreciate it, even if it doesn't seem like it. I had this whole speech prepared, and I still may send it to you, but I want to yield a lot of my time and be very brief. There's a real crisis in confidence in Princeton and its board and its superintendent. And I don't want to pass judgment here. I just want to lay it out. The public trust has been lost. There are thousands of signatures on 2 major petitions that you know that I don't need to reference, that accumulated in 10 days. That should just tell you that something's wrong here. And so I have one simple ask for tonight, and it's been echoed in previous comments. Hit the pause button. There's no rush here. Pause on the decision to hire an interim principal. Allow Principal Schmiel his due process before making that decision. There's only 3 months left in the school year. Trust me, there's enough competent people and administrators in the system that can carry these high school seniors and the rest of the high school through the rest of the year while these issues, the trust issues, the transparency are sorted out. We want to work with you. We want to partner with you. There's this huge referendum that you guys just proposed, and I was impressed by the amount of work the board put into this. And a lot of it made sense, but how do you expect the public to vote or to approve $10 million and whatever the next one's going to be when they don't trust you? We want to trust you, so please work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. On deck is Brett Jack now. Are you Mr. Karp? You passed, okay. Brett Jack now, and then Brigitte Ling.
Good evening. Thanks for your time. I've been on boards myself. I know they could be thankless. Tonight, I urge you to vote no on Dr. Kelly's recommendation to hire Kathy Foster as interim principal for PHS. She cannot be approved tonight for 2 reasons. First, because that position belongs to Frank Schmiel. Second, because the students deserve all the personnel and financial resources to be used to advance their best interests. The vice principal should continue as interim until Frank Schmiel is reinstated. Spending even more money to hire Dr. Foster as the interim means less money in the high school general funds to be used on other things that PHS needs. As a student eloquently reminded this board last week, one of your listed responsibilities is representing community educational goals and financial interests. Approving Dr. Foster would be contrary to that, not to mention transitioning the students to a new leader at this point in the year is simply more change that they can't handle. So who is against Frank Schmiel? Clearly Dr. Kelly, but why? We don't know. You now have the opportunity to get PHS back on track by reversing Dr. Kelly's decisions, by bringing back Mr. Schmiel to the school he loves and that loves him right back. If that requires a change in senior administration in order to move forward in a workable, amicable environment, then that is a decision you will strongly have to weigh. Listen to your community. Vote no on Kathy Foster and bring back Mr. Schmiel.
Good evening, everyone.
Hold on. Next up is Grace Sang.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bright Lane. I'm living Princeton, Kingston Road at Princeton. We've saw multiple emails from the administration, Dr. Kelly, that you would like to minimize disruption and successfully manage transition. But from what has been happening tonight, for example, the agenda was violated. Obviously, you allow someone to speak 3 minutes without any notice. But also, we don't have any detail about what's happening with Mr. Schmiel, and we don't know what's the expectation of this new interim principal you guys are hiring without any kind of hearing and background search. What are the expectations here, and how could you get someone was so liked and valued by so many community members and students, thousands of signatures with all the within 10 days, I was wondering where you can find such a good principal that you're looking for, and what's the justification there? And really, this is who is benefiting, and we want to know that. And finally, I hope this is something the Board of Education. That's why you are elected, to listen to the community and to do what is best for the community. And I want also to thank. After 5-10 years, what do you guys want to be remembered for, as a legacy or unjustified decisions to let Mr. Schmiel go? So I will highly recommend you to reconsider and reinstate Mr. Schmiel as the principal of PHS. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So Grace Zhang is up, and then Lily Chen, and that will, that'll bring us to 9:02. And so that's an extra minute and a half accounting for Mr. Lapira's statement.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the board for letting me speak. And I prepared something, but the parents in front of me already spoke all what I want to say. I'm sorry, I'm Grace Zhang, and I live in Hemlock Circle. Like 12 years ago, I moved to Princeton for the Princeton education and for the community. And all this, right now, I feel that all this in front of me is kind of disappear at this event. So I urge the board to listen to us, to listen to the community, to consider the consequences, the decision you're making tonight, the impact on the community, consider the mental health of our children, and consider the teachers' morale, and consider the crisis here for the teachers' shortage, the national crisis of the teacher shortage right now. And also consider the community unity right here, and how we're going to move forward from right now. And thank you. That's all I want to
Thank you.
ask.
My name is Lily Chen. I live on Valley Road. Here, I want to thank for all your service for the community. You are community leaders. That's why we voted for you, at least some of you. And we want you to listen to the community back. We all spoken, both in the protest and in the Zoom meeting before. Now you listen to us again, right? We repeated this call again. We want Schmiel back. One thing I want to say is Schmiel, if Schmiel is dismissed as the way he is now, I worry a lot of good teachers and administrative staff will leave this system, and that just leave our school, in a bad state. We have expressed ourselves. Please listen. We will hold you responsible one day in the election. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. We appreciate the civility and the respect for others. We're going to move on now to our business agenda, and then we will. Yes, we did 1 hour. We're going to do our business, and then we'll come back and do another hour. Okay, thank you. So now we're moving on to item I, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. J1, first reading. Yes. Oh, it is? Yeah.
Action item, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No one tells me. All right. Item I1. Can I get a motion, please? Brian, second. Rob?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Abstain.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Jean Durbin,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on now to J1, first reading of policies, and then K1 board committee highlights, and we're going to start with the long-term planning committee. Co-chairs Brian McDonald. Beth, you're taking it? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Daphna. Long-term planning on March 21st, we had a public session. Am I on? On March 21st, we had a public meeting of the Long-Term Planning Committee. That presentation that was made that night is available on the district website. And we discussed how to ensure that we have appropriate school facilities for the years to come, given the enrollment
rise that we see coming. We talked about the timing, the process, and the parameters for planning for that future growth. And we summarized by talking about next steps, which are that the administration will provide a timeline of major milestones, including dates for required submissions, approvals, and public review and comment by April 25th, 2023. We asked the BA assemble an appropriate planning team in May and June of 23. We asked that the administration execute the planning timeline, including the opportunity for board and community input over the next 12 months. And we asked that the administration present a plan for the interim solutions for next year, which has been discussed already this evening. And discuss that meeting again on the 23rd in closed session in terms of what our next steps would be internally. And our next meeting is April 20th at 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to operations with Susan Canner and Brian McDonald.
I'm going to speak tonight. We met on March 8th at 8 a.m. Just so you know, our next meeting is April 12th, also at 8 a.m., and we welcome the public to join. We began by getting updates on our past referendum projects, including...
I'm sorry, Ms. Canner, could you just, is it possible to close the doors? We just, the rest of the board isn't able to hear Mrs. Canner. Thank you.
We began by getting updates both on our past referendum projects and ones that are being bid to be done this summer, including siding, fascia, slate roofs, and masonry work at the high school, and also a schedule for when the next work on the roof referendum will be bid out for work to be done the following summer. We then, as we always do every meeting, discussed sustainability, and our focus was on the Eco Lab and how that regrowth is progressing, as well as our current buildings and their energy usage. We then also discussed the potential of a referendum that the district is working on, which will focus on safety, technology, playgrounds, and athletic updates. We then opened up to public comment and also continue our discussion in that public comment on the Eco Lab. So again, please join us April 12th, 8 a.m. We welcome the public.
Thank you, Mrs. Canner. Moving on now to personnel with co-chairs Debbie Bronfeld and Mara Franceschi. Debbie?
I'm going to read. Yep. Thank you. The Personnel Committee met on March 2nd. We discussed raising the substitute nurse daily rate, which we voted on at the beginning of the month. We also discussed the process used to interview for the Riverside Principal. We discussed that the HR department is working very hard on CUSAC. We discussed the district will be ready to submit our equity plan to the state in June 2023. We discussed a really great professional development event that was held for our PAA members, which is supervisors and principals, by a special ed attorney. And this was taped so that those that couldn't make it can attend. We discussed hiring and the budget, and the PPS administration will be interviewing candidates at TCNJ and CJ Pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Moving on to policy with co-chairs Jean Durbin and Beth Barrett.
I'll speak, thanks. Policy met on March 24th at 8:15. We discussed a few policies that are up for read tonight. And we reviewed a special education policy, suicide prevention policy, sustainability, safe routes to school. We also had a brief discussion on our attendance policy. We will meet next on Friday morning, April 14th at 8:15 a.m., and we welcome the public.
Thank you, Jean. And then finally, student achievement with co-chairs Betsy Baglio and Michelle Tuck-Ponder.
Hi, I'll be delivering the report this evening. The Student Achievement Committee met on March 10th and at 11 a.m. and we spent the majority of the meeting discussing Princeton Public Schools summer programming. We have state-required ESY, which is extended school year programming. We are also going to be offering pre-K and summer programs for elementary and high school students, and also summer math advancement. We also discussed ESL programming and computer literacy, received an update on the math evaluation RFP process, and also talked about graduation date and the hopefully not likely rain date. So that was the bulk of our meeting, and our next meeting is Friday, April 14th, 2023 at 11:30, and the public is welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, moving on now to the personnel and other agendas, and so you all know I go very fast. Stop me if you want to say anything. L1 resignations.
Can we stop for one moment?
Wait, I just want to say one thing before. Mr. Scarillo, we are very sorry to see you go, but congratulations on your new position. You certainly weren't here long enough.
And ditto. So,
L2 retirements, L3 appointments, L4 transfer reassignments, L5 personnel items, L6 student services, L7 leave of absence, L8 curriculum and instruction, L9 sidebar. Now we're moving on to curriculum and instruction. M1 ESS. Okay, can I please get a motion? Oh, can I get a second? Sorry. Mara? Okay, all in favor?
Is that unanimous? I can't.
No.
No.
Motion to table? Oh, I didn't know any of that.
No, it's M1.
She's just
Talking about ESS, right?
I don't know why we're doing it.
We're just going to put it to next month.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Sorry?
Yeah, sure. I'm good.
Do you, you're gonna,
So we have
Something come out?
we have school
Did you see something?
we have a consulting service for ESS, which is a mental
Okay,
health
but you
provider.
share.
And there were some questions from the board on the RFP when the agenda was posted on Friday. And so we're going to table this so some of the board member questions can be answered, and we'll vote on this in April. Mr. Bolden? We haven't voted. We're just going through the agenda. Yes, it was. It was under, yes, L3 appointments.
No. Madam President?
Yes.
Would discussion on L3 help?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to make a motion?
Let's just make sure we're on the same page. So you're making a motion to table,
No, we're
or
on
have you already made that motion to
M1.
table? M1, only
Yes.
M1.
Yes.
Right, so that's tabled.
Yes.
Now we're going to be discussing and/or voting on the L series.
No, we weren't. We went through it
No,
already.
we went through
It's
that.
part of the consent agenda.
As part of the consent agenda.
Yes, unless somebody wants to discuss it. Yes, so do you want to make a motion? Second? Rob, okay.
I just wanted to share that the appointment of Dr. Foster as interim principal at the high school is not meant to, my understanding, not meant to replace Mr. Schmiel. Mr. Schmiel is on administrative leave receiving salary and benefits. Is that correct? And our administrators are accepting, willing, and asking for the assistance in order to get through the end of the year and meet all of the administrative milestones and state reporting requirements that they need to finish, correct? Is that right? I'm asking for
yes,
discussion.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, I was asking for that clarification. Thank you.
So do we want to vote on that now? Does anyone want to? It's part of our consent agenda. So we go through the agenda, and then at the end, after the second public comment, we vote. However, unless a board member would like to vote differently, or they would like to make it an action item.
I'm not asking for action. I was asking for discussion. That's all. Thank you.
No, okay, so we're moving on. Item M2, educational consulting services. M3, grant acceptance. On behalf of the board, I'd just like to thank Sustainable Princeton for their donations for the Green Team, $2,000 each at Riverside Princeton High School and Johnson Park. We appreciate the support. I'm sorry, it was Sustainable Jersey. I'm sorry, that's my mistake. M4, NJDOE preschool expansion, 1-year enrollment and budget. M5, student day field trips. Is that an action item? No. M6, grant application acceptance, climate awareness education grant. And so we're grateful for this $6,600 grant from the climate awareness education. Then moving on to item N1, educational placement of students. N2, professional consulting services. Then we're moving on to business, O1, financial reports. O2, fire and evacuation drills. O3, registration and travel agenda. O4, formal bid for rehabilitation of the roof at PHS. And O5, termination of current pharmacy benefit manager and appointment of CVS Caremark. And now we're going to move on to our second public comment session. And it is 9:14. We will go to 10:14. Next up is Shenwei Zhao and then Helen Rose.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, board member, for listening to us. So good evening, board members. My name is Shenwei Zhao. I live on Prospect Avenue in Princeton. So last year, I was one of the thousands of voters that did not vote for any of the BOE incumbents. I witnessed what happened when PPS ran into a situation like this. As a reminder, this is not the first time that the school ran into this in the past year or so. I believe it's ran into this chaos because the mismanagement of the PPS administration, which is the BOE's sole job to manage. There are and will be more. Your action or no action at this time has proved to me again that my choice was correct. So at the end of this mess, I hope you can either prove I was wrong, which I will be very happy to admit, that I didn't vote for you, or you can show the entire audience today and some people like listen in the live stream why so many of us were right, and so they can join us this year to not voting any incumbents this year and beyond. I know by electing you to the board, we essentially put you into a gag order so you can't talk. So I would just ask the following questions for you to consider when you leave this meeting. Number one, do you prioritize PPS and the voters' interest, or you prioritize to support the one and only employee you hired? Two, last year, the same PPS administration's decision to fire Mr. Schmiel was voted down by you in a large margin. What happened? We need to know that. Number three. Thank you. Number three, consider the hostile working environment at the PPS. As many of us may sense by watching a school principal needs to endure in the past 20 months or so, do you really have concerns that good people may leave us? Four, as board members, do you feel pressured, do you feel pressured, intimidated, and reluctant in any way, shape, or form to make independent decisions? I do hope you ask yourself with your conscience as a Princeton resident, not as a board member. At the end of the day, the ultimate responsibility, burden, and the consequences to destroy the school district is on us. It's not by the employee you hired. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next on deck is Ilana Litkowski.
Hi,
I'm Helen Rose. I'm a pediatrician, and I live on Linden Lane. I have 4 children. One of them graduated from the public schools, and I have 3 other children, 2 in the high school. Everyone involved in Princeton Public Schools says that mental health is paramount. I agree with that. I think it is paramount. I think many, many people are trying to help our students with their mental health. I think Frank Schmiel has proven that he can be successful in this way. Our students told you a year ago, they're telling you this again. The reason these parents are here is not for their own personal concerns. It's because they're hearing and seeing their students react to this. You know, moving forward, a lot of trust that has been lost, and I think the reason why trust has been lost in the board is not because the board doesn't explain themselves, it's just that the board often explains the positives of a decision and doesn't talk about the negatives. And it makes us feel like you haven't considered them maybe. And I think it's a pretty big negative when you have thousands of folks saying, hey, this was the wrong decision. Anyway, I don't want to take up a lot of time. Thank you for your service. It is service, it is hard. But please try to make the right decision, not the decision you feel pressured to make or the decision that makes you feel like maybe I made a mistake with something else. Make the right decision now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on deck is Rowan Gilmore.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, this is Elena Lukowski. I live on Montedale Drive in Princeton. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak, and I thank you for your service. Board of Ed members, you are all voted in to serve and represent the community, your constituents, to promote greatness and to protect the children's best interest. You have failed this community. I try to teach my children right from wrong, to allow them to make mistakes and to grow from it, to make right when they've made wrong, to better themselves. Clearly, you have made a huge mistake. Fix it. Fix it. I teach my children not to bully, to come to the aid of those that are being bullied and to stand up to the bullies. That is why I am here today. You talk about respect, but how is it respectful to give Mr. Schmiel his walking papers when he's off sick? No good comes from firing our Princeton High School principal. Nothing, no personal or political agenda is worth our children's health and happiness. Haven't we been through enough? After these last 2 years, 2 years we've suffered. Right this ship, stop the madness and chaos and do what you know is the right thing to do. Tonight I ask that you do not vote in a new interim principal, that the BOE releases the statement for the Donaldson hearing to take place ASAP. I ask you to reinstate Principal Schmiel. I ask you to fire Superintendent Kelly. And we have no confidence in her. And I ask you to listen to the students and the parents and the residents of this town. Thank you.
Up next is Lori Mountainland.
Hi, I'm Rowan Gilmore. I am Student Body Vice President at Princeton High School, but I come to you tonight as a peer group leader at PHS. I'd like to thank you first for allowing us all to speak here tonight. As a leader in the peer leadership program at PHS, I felt frustrated over what has happened to our Principal Schmiel. We've had to postpone many important outreaches in our program in order to talk to our freshman students about the recent events in our school system, as they haven't had many other opportunities to express their own frustration and confusion. At our most recent outreach, I was unable to answer my freshmen's questions about what was going on, and that didn't feel right as someone who is supposed to be a leader. Mr. Schmiel had met with my peer group class a week before his termination, and he had talked to us enthusiastically about creating a stronger bond between the peer group program and administration. We are going to have liaisons meet with him each month to talk about what could be improved at the school. To suddenly have that connection taken from us felt very discouraging as peer group leaders and reminded us that no other principal or administrator had made that effort that he did. Thank you again for letting us speak. Thank you.
Next up is Sanjay Chaswal.
Lori Mountainland, Southern Way, Princeton. I'm here tonight as a resident of Princeton, but also because I had a 40-year career in the Franklin Township Public School District, from which I retired in June 2020. During my tenure in Franklin, not only was I a teacher and then an LDTC, but I was also actively involved with the Franklin Township Education Association, ultimately serving as its president for 8 years. In Franklin, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Kelly as well as Mr. Schmiel. I found Mr. Schmiel to be a respectful, intelligent, hardworking, and reasonable individual who did his best to bring peace, exceptional learning, and a sense of community to Franklin High School, which was so desperately needed at that time. I am not here, however, to sing Mr. Schmiel's praises, as his reputation should speak for itself. Instead, I'm here to speak to the way in which his non-renewal was handled. As a former association president, I have extensive knowledge of and experience with the non-renewal process and consequences thereof. While I understand that the board is unable to discuss personnel issues in public, I question why this non-renewal took place in the middle of the school year rather than the more appropriate date of June 30th, the official end to the 2022 school year. What egregious, unlawful, disgraceful action could Mr. Schmiel have engaged in to have led you to this decision? Why would Dr. Kelly make such a recommendation at this time rather than wait to the natural end of the school year? In my mind, there can only be one reason: a hidden agenda on the part of Dr. Kelly that has resulted in Mr. Schmiel's termination. As members of the Board of Education, it is your charge to represent students, parents, staff members of this community. Did you consider the impact this decision would have on these very people? Did you think about the long-term effects such a decision would have on those parents, students, and staff members whose lives he touched? Was it necessary to disallow him from having a proper goodbye by locking him out of the building? For 22 years, I have been proud to say that Princeton was my home. However, I am disappointed and frankly appalled at the way this situation was handled. Excuse me?
Please complete your thoughts.
Okay. Although I am hopeful that Mr. Schmiel's contract will be reinstated, if that is in fact what he would like, my experience suggests that that is unlikely. However, if nothing else, I truly hope that you, the Board of Education, has learned something from this poor decision and planning and will never do this to someone again. Thank you.
Jessica Vieira. And then on deck is Liz Totten.
Hi there, Jessica Vieira, Stockton Street in Princeton. Thank you all for coming out tonight and for taking this opportunity to hear all of the voices in the room, and especially thank you for your volunteering service. I come to you today as a parent, not PTO president. As an active member in the community, I can tell you that there are so many meetings and so many opportunities to learn about what is going on in your district. And unfortunately, many of them are basically unattended. I hear what everyone is saying and that you ask for transparency, yet as soon as there was a break in the meeting, we couldn't even hear what the board was talking about. If you would like to get involved, there are plenty and more than plenty opportunities for you to do so. And in doing so, there will be more and more transparency. The information is available. This administration has provided a level of clarity and information that they are legally able to share. I think that's become apparent. Excuse me. We had an attorney who is here and hired to protect our district and ensure that our district isn't sued by an employee. Please put yourself in the shoes of Mr. Schmiel, who doesn't want his public. If he did, he would order the hearing immediately. Our administration that has been elected has given the level of clarity and information that they're legally able to share. We can all agree that we'd like to improve clarity and communication and transparency, but we have to remember that we don't know what we don't know. Okay? It's unfair to share employee information, and I wouldn't want my employee record necessarily shared without my consent. Please remember, before you say anything more about anyone, we understand you're upset, but we don't know what we don't know.
Thank you. And then next up is Renee Obregon.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Tutton. I live on Harris Road and...
I'm sorry, hold on one second, please.
Please refrain from speaking during the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Liz Tutton. I live on Harris Road in Princeton, and I'm the parent of a first grader in the DLI program, as well as a rising kindergarten who will join the program next year. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak and for putting a pause on the plan that was proposed last week. Admittedly, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to all these issues, and then I've spent a lot of time kind of digging into the numbers, trying to understand what's going on, and I can see that there's a really big challenge with this elementary enrollment issue. The only thing I really want to ask, well, one, I want to reiterate what the other CP parents said, is we want to partner. We want to try to get voluntary enrollment and bring more families to CP. And then I just urge you to really engage with us and try to understand what are some of the root causes of why DLI, whether they don't know about it, whether it's a sibling issue that they moved to the district too late and they would love it for their younger child, but trying to keep the kids, because I've just heard so many anecdotes over the last couple of weeks, and I think there's a lot of valuable data in there. So I know it's going to be a difficult plan no matter what to come back with, but I'd love to see kind of just those root causes of the issue as you're developing a plan. So thank you.
Thank you. So on deck is Alita Mack.
To bring a little levity, I have to use glasses because we're all getting a little bit older. So my name is Renee Obregon on Walker Drive, the parent of 2 high school students. I'm a proud product of public schools, not Princeton, but public schools, and have consciously made the decision to send my kids to Princeton public schools because I believe in the mission, from JP to JW and now PHS. I would like to address 2 things: the firing of Principal Schmiel and the topic of equity. My concern is, from the outside, this seems like an unwarranted dismissal of a highly regarded principal. I want to be very transparent. My interaction with Principal Schmiel has been limited mostly via my children, who only have high things to say. So I'm not professing to have a strong relationship with him. However, when I see the large body here in the student body, I have to wonder, what is the board missing? Because they're missing something. My issue is fourfold on that topic. Where's the transparency behind the decision? His open letter specifically stated he was asked to resign, which would appear to rule out a fire for cause scenario. What's the KPI and data that was used to support this decision? Why did Dr. Kelly and the board, by extension, decide it was in the best interest of students and teachers to disrupt the school year with just 2 months left? If there was a compelling reason to do so, absent criminal or dangerous behavior, surely it would make sense to do it at the end of the school year. The letter from the board on Sunday said they unanimously supported and support the superintendent and the difficult decisions that needed to be made. Is it genuinely true that there was no dissent on the board? Did they really fail to misread the largest student group in the whole PPS district and the disruption it would cause to them with 2 months left of the school year? Fourthly, if there was an issue, were the tools and guidance given to Principal Schmiel to correct course? I say this recognizing that the board have never flagged what the issues were. And I ask this specifically because if after 2 years or a year, Dr. Kelly's vision doesn't deliver, will the board be as quick in calling for her removal or change? I want to keep it civil. I just ask that the board consider that, they may have made a mistake and it makes sense to do a pause. On equity, quickly, I'm a first-generation American from Peruvian and Cuban parents. My parents didn't speak English well, both worked full-time. I was the child then that we're trying to help today via equity measures. I hear a lot of concern about removing advanced classes and detracking. My personal experience was AP classes, and striving to emulate AP students is what motivated and pushed me further to succeed. And while my parents couldn't help me with some of my AP classes, they knew it was my ticket to the American dream. Success does not mean college for everyone, but for the ones who do, they should not be held back. If you want to know what the hurdles were for me and what worked, I'm happy to share my experience, and I've met other immigrant first-generation parents who will tell you what helped them with their parents. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. So, Aleda Mack, and then next up is Yoon Suk Cho. Aleda Mack. Aleda's not here? Okay. No, well, come on.
Madam President?
Yes.
We are not detracking, and we have added AP classes.
Oh,
right?
yes, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Community about race-based grading, that we're getting rid of AP classes, that we are detracking. None of that has been discussed. We are actually adding an AP Human Geography course next year, and we are sending 2 math teachers for training this summer for AP Pre-Calc for the 24-25 school year. So there are no plans to eliminate AP classes. I really want to make sure that's clear tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tu. Okay. And then up next is Angela Hol Abid-Chedidi.
Okay, thank you. I thank VOE members and also Dr. Kelly and our fellow community member being still there.
Sorry, just street address where you live.
Sorry, Yoon
Yeah.
Suk Cho. I live in Red Hill Road, Princeton.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to first thank you, BOE and Kelly, doing an amazing job. Meaning that you guys brought this community member together. You brought, community. That's you being cheeky. But here's what I'm saying. What I'm hearing from Dr. Kelly and BOE is you rather be right than being understood. That to me is a dictatorship. I know because I come from that country. Yes. Good leadership, good leaders have humility. Sometimes we all see things in our lens. You have a humility. That's the great leadership. You could be right, you could be wrong, but the fact that all these people come out says something. And some people are trying to turn this to kind of racial issue. Shame on you. Last time I checked, civil rights movement wasn't started by president or anyone in the leadership position. It started from the public. That's how the people get on the right side. Don't think that you know it all. Because when I don't even remember my principal in high school. The fact that all these students show up and supporting Mr. Dr. Schmiel, that says a lot in my opinion. So I don't know. Yes, someone said, I don't know what you know. But the thing is, you think you're protected by his lawyer? Fattening his pocket rather than spending on our students. Shame on you. So I'm telling you, you look at yourself, why you want to be in the position. You are here to serve the students, parents, not to be in a power to abuse your power.
I went in as I've been an administrator for 25 years, and we have the typical tools, right? Suspensions, detention, curriculum, taking a hardline approach, accountability, right? Those were my tools. That was my repertoire of tools. And Frank taught me the most powerful tool, not just in education, but humanity. And that tool was love. He taught me that it's okay to love openly. He taught me this. He transformed my soul. He was there he was there for me when my mother passed. His mother passed the year before. And the amount of support he gave me, the amount of love, as a machismo, I'm a Latino, right? So it's about machismo. You can't say I love you to another man. But I want to say this, and Frank, if you're listening, I love you, brother. I love you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I can follow machismo, but Tom Pinio, Van Deventer Avenue in Princeton. As I learned a long time ago, probably at a class at Princeton High School, nature abhors a vacuum. And so apparently does this community. I think although it isn't on full display here tonight, there's a lot of goodwill in the community. And I implore you to fill that vacuum as best you can, as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Zoe Shavitz. I'm a student at PHS. I'm secretary of the sophomore Stuco. I had a great relationship with Mr. Schmiel. I've talked to him many times in the hallways. He always knew my name. He always knew my friend's name. He was a great connector. He brought people together, and most people I knew really liked him. And the termination of Mr. Schmiel seems very rushed and very it's very rushed and like not thought out, and I don't agree with that. I think that's ridiculous, and process takes time, and you are elected by people, just as I was elected by my constituents, my peers. As secretary, I take their opinions into account. In our meetings, I listen to them, and I ask my peers, I ask my like the people who voted for me, what do they want? Who am I representing? I'm representing them, and they tell me their opinions and what they want to happen. We plan those events, we make those changes, or we try at least. And you have all these people come out here to tell you, and this is a huge attendance. Thank you for coming, community. And that's impressive, but they elect you to make their decisions on behalf of them. And if they have to come out here and tell you that you're making the wrong decisions, then what is happening? Because you're supposed to be making their decisions on behalf of them. We have a general body in student council. They come occasionally. We don't have super high attendance, but if something's wrong and if any person in the school wants to change something, they can come. But we don't have that high attendance. We try to listen to our peers so that we don't need them to come. We represent them, because if we just held school-wide meetings to decide on every little thing, then nothing would ever get progress. That's why we represent people. That's why we have representative democracies. And you're not representing what the people want, clearly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Allison Resnick, Linden Lane. I have two.
I'm sorry. What's your name? I didn't.
Allison Resnick, Linden Lane.
Thank you.
I have two stories to talk to you about. We've been here for 2 years. We were new to the district. My daughter he knew her name immediately, which again, that seems to be a common theme here. But when I started my job, nobody knew my name, so that says something. I'm going to read you the email first because my phone's going to die. He wrote her an email because she wanted to start a club at the school, and it was for animal therapy, which I think she got so much attendance for this because of what happened, because he was the one who instated this club, and then he left. And now all the kids need this therapy. So they all signed up for it. So I guess in one way, it's good. So he wrote her an email that said the following: "This sounds like a positive undertaking that can bring a lot of joy to our students and staff if we can begin bringing in therapy animals. I am proud of you for starting this work." I've never heard of a principal writing an email like that. I've never heard of a principal praising a student like that, personally. And that just said so much to me. So much to me. The second story is she has some anxiety issues. She was in the hallway having a panic attack. Not one student, not one teacher went in to help. But he saw it. He said, "Kayla, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" "Oh, I'm fine. I need to find this teacher. I need to find her right now." "It's okay. What's wrong?" "I have a history thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to find this teacher." "I was a history teacher. I can help you. Why don't you come to my office? Show me what you're working on." She said he got phone call after phone call while she was in that office, and he would not take the phone calls. She said that he said they'll have to wait. They can leave a message. I'm with you right now. I'm helping you right now. Again, never heard of that in my life, and I'm an educator. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Desiree Chen, and I'm from Cranberry. I want to thank all of you for serving your community. I want to thank Dr. Kelly as well for being here, listening to the voices of the people. So I started a Facebook group basically because there was no voice to be heard in a different Facebook group that was meant for parents to discuss issue. And I had no desire to start anything on Facebook or in person. How this whole thing all started was because I started getting texts from parents saying that kids were totally breaking down at home, in school, and kids were going crazy, just wondering if the rumors about Mr. Schmiel being fired was real. So I just want to say that we're staying here to advocate for the children, for the students. We don't have an agenda. We're not here to take down anybody. And I hope the board and Dr. Kelly can understand that. There is a reason why people have come together today. And usually people come together when the visions aligned. And I think it is unfortunate that we're coming together today in such a situation, in such a circumstance. Now, parents are frustrated, and because I manage the Facebook group, I'm getting a lot of messages, a lot of emails. I'm also trying to manage it in a very respectable ways, advising people not to get too worked up, not to post anything that is demeaning to anyone. But I'm getting so many messages, and I just don't think I even have the energy and the time for my own family in the last 1 week. I just want to say quickly that I really hope that the board and Dr. Kelly can listen to the voices of the students and the parents who are here, again, not to take down anyone, but to advocate for their children. People are frustrated for the lack of responses from the board. We have understood now that Mr. Schmiel has already asked for a hearing. I think it is fair that the board responds as quickly as possible or come out and just to say, that is not true. He did not ask for a hearing. So there's no more guessing on the ground. Say something, we ask of you. And if he has asked for a hearing, I'll wrap up soon. If he has asked for a hearing, we hope that you can help us move on. I think this is what the community needs. We all have children. I have 3 children and 3 dogs. I don't walk the dogs anymore, honestly. You know, my kids are walking them now. And we hope you can hear us, and we hope that you can respond as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. LaPira, Ms. Chen just asked if, she just stated that Mr. Schmiel has asked for a hearing. Is that correct?
So just to be clear in terms of the process, right? Because his attorneys have issued a statement. When there's a non-renewal, a person can ask for a statement of reasons. There's a period of time to give that statement of reasons. After they receive the statement of reasons, after they review it, then they can decide whether or not they're going to ask for a hearing. We're not at that stage yet. We're going to be at this stage sometime soon, but that's not where we are right now.
Thank you.
So let's wait for the vote.
Then why you vote now?
Good evening. I come as a former Cranberry resident and a former PHS student. I just want to say that as the support that everyone has been given for Mr. Schmiel has been really important to me. As throughout my time at PHS, I've never had the support as a principal that these students have had. And I come to you just to think about the support of the students and think about how it affects your students and how it affects everyone throughout the community, what are the changes that you're going to make. Also think about the new appointments that you're going to make as someone new. Just stick to someone that's within the PHS, that the students know and that the students are familiar with, instead of coming within someone new. And also come within the support that is all that matters, the support of Mr. Schmiel from his students. The students was what most important, that all that matters is going to be affected throughout this time. So I just want to thank you all for allowing me to come speak. I'm from Irvington, New Jersey. I came very far just to come speak to you guys about this matter, and I just want to thank you all.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for public comment? No, okay. I know. We're going to move on. One of our board members had to go to the bathroom, so give us a minute. It's been-
People are saying the YouTube streaming is down.
Yes, we heard it was down, but then we were told it was back up.
It's back up.
Okay, all right. So now we're moving, there's no more public comment. We're moving on to item Q1, which is the consent vote, approved consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please? I'm sorry. Michelle, second. Betsy?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Jean Durbin,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponner,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes.
Okay, thank you. And with that, can I please get, so again, we'd like to thank everyone for coming out.
Can I just say one thing? Yeah. Can we just thank our staff for setting up this space so we can have a meeting that accommodates so many people? Took a lot of work on a lot of staff members' parts, and we appreciate it.
So, and with that, can I get a motion to, so we want to thank everyone for coming. What, I didn't hear the question. So, everything that we went through. Yeah, yes. Yeah, do you want to do, we just did a roll call, right? Yes, we did.
Please. Please have some decorum.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Please.
Brian,
have some
second.
decorum.
Rob, all in favor?
I can't-
We're adjourned.